So you see this? This is the secret vegan bacon recipe that company Hooray Foods used to sell millions of strips in stores. So I took what they gave, I put my own twist on it, and I adapted it for home cooks like us. This recipe is easy and it makes a ton of umami-packed, smoky, plant-based bacon. So to start, we're gonna make a batter which we'll later then bake to make these plant-based strips. So first things first, we're gonna go ahead and add some water. So secret ingredient here is beet juice. This is gonna give us that nice red coloring in the bacon. So we're gonna add 1/3 cup plus 1 tablespoon. And now we're onto the seasonings. So we're gonna go ahead and add some salt, mushroom powder, teaspoon of garlic powder. We're gonna add some paprika here just because that's gonna give it a really great flavor. And it's also gonna add to that dark red that we're going for. Well, now you don't need to whisk it up at this point, but I just don't like the way this looks. Next up is some browning liquid. This goes by different names. Kitchen Bouquet is one, Gravy Master is another. This is gonna give us a nice, darker, bacony color. So we're gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of that. 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. This is gonna give us that sweet flavor along with the salty and smoky. Speaking of smoky, next up is liquid smoke. Now we're gonna whisk this together and then set it aside. So to get that nice, deep, dark red look to it, this is gonna make great bacon.
Next, we're gonna mix our dry ingredients in a separate bowl.
We've got one of 2 functional ingredients. This is rice flour. Again, I'm gonna put the links to all this stuff in the description so you can get it, but you can also find it at your local Asian market. What this stuff is gonna do is create a nice, thick texture for the bacon. So we're gonna use a 1/2 cup or 64 grams of rice flour. Now we're going to follow that up with our second functional ingredient, tapioca flour. I've also heard this called tapioca starch. To my knowledge, they're the same thing. We're gonna go ahead and add 1/2 cup of this tapioca flour. Next up is our coconut oil. Now I'm using refined here. See how it says refined expeller pressed. Now really press it in there. We wanna make sure this cup is full. Now it comes solid, so we're gonna have to scoop this into our measuring cup and then we're gonna have to heat it up. So we're gonna put this in the microwave and we're gonna go ahead and microwave it for about 30 seconds, 2 times. All right, so now we've got our melted coconut oil. So now we're gonna take a standard 1/2 sheet baking sheet. I'll put the measurements in the description. We're gonna take this and we're gonna go ahead and oil it down. This is where we're gonna put our bacon. Also, you do not need to use a rippled pan like this. My pan just happens to be rippled. A nice, flat, sturdy pan that won't warp in the oven is gonna be your best friend on this. All right, now that that's greased, let's set this aside. Take your tapioca rice flour mixture and just go ahead and put your coconut oil in there and give it a whisk. Now it's gonna clump up like this and that is okay. Just wanna make sure that all of this powder gets absorbed in with this coconut oil. And then the fun step, we're gonna take our beet juice batter we made earlier and we're gonna dump it right in here. Now go ahead and poke and prod this. Get those clumps completely and utterly destroyed. Now we've got a nice semi-thick batter here. Now take your greased pan and go ahead and pour this whole thing on there. Now we're gonna tip the pan to get this batter evenly coated. We want this full tray to be completely covered in batter. Now we're gonna take this off to an oven preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now be careful here as you put the pan in the oven. You don't want to tip it and send the batter rushing to one side of the pan. I did that on my first attempt and it did not go well. Let it bake for about 6 minutes, and when you start to see some serious bubbles happening around that time, you can take it out.
All right, so I let this sit in the fridge for about 10 minutes after I let it cool down so I can handle it. So we're gonna make 11 cuts here. We're gonna go about every 1.5 inches. As you're cutting, you don't need to cut exactly along like a line. In fact, I would encourage you to really get wavy, right? Like think of bacon, or when you cook it, it's not perfectly a rectangle. And we don't need these to be either. But you know, that's just for fun. You know, do whatever you like. All right, you should be able now to pull these up. Make sure you're helping it out so it doesn't snap apart, or so it doesn't break apart. So these will be gummy. You should be able to hang it without it breaking apart. We're gonna take a nice big sheet of parchment paper, and then we're gonna place our strips on here one by one until we're all done.
Now this makes a lot of bacon, so for the pieces we're not going to use right away, we're going to roll these up in some parchment paper to store. That way when you unroll them, the pieces won't be bent and cook evenly. Now what you've all been waiting for, let's go ahead and cook some of these up. So grab a pan and preheat it for a couple minutes on low heat. We're going to want to cook these low and slow. You don't need to add oil. The oil will render out of these just like animal-based bacon. See that oil bubbling out? Gorgeous. After about 2 minutes of low cooking, flip the strips. Sometimes these can stick a bit to the tongs or the pan, so use another spatula to help these out as needed. If they don't flip perfectly, that's totally fine. Remember, having them look a bit rustic is perfectly okay, if not encouraged. After cooking the other side for about a minute / another minute and a half, they should be done. I like to pull them from the pan right before I think they're done. They will harden more as they cool. See how it is just like a bit floopy? That is when you want to pull them. These require a bit of fuel to cook, and your experience can really depend on how hot your pan is. I'd even try pulling one too early to experiment how that works out for you. You can always pop it back on the pan later to finish cooking. I know some people prefer really crispy bacon like me, and some prefer to have some moisture in the middle, so make them how you like them. After 3 to 4 minutes total, cooking 1 to 2 minutes on each side, it should look perfect like this. As you finish cooking them, put them on a wire rack to cool. And when you've cooked all you need, you're ready to chow down. These taste great and you can eat them on their own. You can put them on sandwiches, you can chop them up and put them on salads. Like, these go great anywhere. And the best part is this makes a ton. This one recipe makes 24 strips. So if you think about it, you can use them to your heart's content. I always worry about kind of saving these, but you can even double the recipe to make 48 strips, which is like so much bacon that you'll probably be giving it away. These store indefinitely in the freezer and for a super long time in the fridge. In fact, I've had these in my fridge for a while and I haven't even figured out how long it takes for them to go bad because they just keep staying good. And you can just bust them out and fry them up as needed. They even stay crispy in the fridge after you've cooked them for a while. I've had these in the fridge for several days and they're still good to go.
So if you liked this video and got value out of it, it would mean so much if you would like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And until next time, y'all, be nice to each other and keep cooking.